The candidates who got hired at Riot Games weren't smarter, and they weren't necessarily more experienced. Heck, many of them didn't even have AAA experience. I know because I ran over 200 of these interviews myself as a hiring manager at Riot. The thing that actually separated the hires from the rejects had very little to do with their resume. It had to do with something that happened in the first 10 minutes of every interview. There are 3 mistakes I saw over and over again, and I'm going to name all 3. The resume that failed. When I started running the numbers, I thought I knew what the pattern was going to be. I figured it would be work experience, specifically AAA experience. If you'd shipped a title at a top studio, you had the receipts. That had to count for something, right? Let me tell you about one candidate. Top 10 AAA studio. Walked in with a resume that should have ended the search right there. But from the first question, you could feel it. He wasn't interviewing. He was waiting. Like the conversation was a formality and the offer was already in his inbox. Every answer was full of these little throwaway lines. You know how it is when you're shipping a live game. Yeah, you know how those meetings go. No story, no specifics, just the implied wink. The assumption was that we were peers at a conference and not candidate and hiring manager. He never actually showed me what he could do because he didn't think he had to. A great resume doesn't just fail to guarantee an offer. Sometimes it actively works against you because it convinces you that you don't have to try. My second assumption was pedigree. Business school, prestigious university, the kind of background that looks great on a LinkedIn headline, the kind of background that doesn't predict anything. Because the important pattern isn't on the resume, it's what you do in the room. Once you see this pattern, you can't unsee it. The real pattern. The candidates who got hired were calibrated. They read the interviewer. They matched the pace. They knew when to push and when to pull back. The ones who didn't get hired, they had one of 3 problems. I started calling them the rusher, the performer, and the rambler. And honestly, you are probably one of them right now, and you don't even know it. Let me walk you through each one. The story behind it, the reason it kills your interview from the hiring manager side, and the specific fix that takes about 10 seconds to learn. Mistake number 1, the rusher. Picture this. They walk in, adrenaline running, fight or flight mode fully activated. And somewhere in their head is this idea that smart people answer fast. That if you pause, you look uncertain. So they don't actually listen to the question. They pattern match the first few words, assume they've got it, and then launch. I had a candidate, genuinely talented, great experience on paper. He was clearly thrilled to be in the room, and every single answer came out at double speed, jumbled with half the words eaten by the next thought. The actual content of his career was incredible. I could see that from his resume, but I couldn't hear it through all his rushing. He answered 3 different questions with overlapping pieces of the same story. By minute 15, I'd lost track of what he'd actually done. He honestly had everything, and he buried it. When you rush a question, I'm not just hearing you talk fast. I'm building a model in my head. Does this person listen? Can they slow down in a planning meeting? What happens when a PM gives them a direction they don't like? Are they going to actually hear it? Or are they going to pattern match, run and bulldoze their way through? If you can't hear my question in an interview, that's the entire interview. I don't need to ask anything else because I already know everything I need to know. The fix. Before you answer any interview question, pause for 2 full seconds. I know that sounds like nothing, but in an interview, 2 seconds feels like an eternity. Most candidates can't do it. They think pausing makes them look uncertain. It doesn't. It makes them look present. The hired candidates, they paused. They let the question finish landing before they started swinging. And the thing is, the rusher isn't even the worst of the three. The next mistake is the one I see in candidates who prepared too much and still got rejected. And worse, they never understand why. Mistake number 2, the performer. They're doing an impression of what they think an interview is supposed to look like. Somebody told them confidence matters, so they perform confidence. Somebody told them energy matters, so they perform energy. Someone told them to have polished star stories, so they show up with 3 of them, rehearsed to the word, ready to deploy. The answers are too clean. A real story has texture. It has the "and then I realized I was wrong" moment. It has the messy middle. A rehearsed answer doesn't have any of that. It has a setup, a problem, an action, and a result with a bow on top. But the real tell comes up on the follow-up question. What would you have done differently? When they are asked that, the whole thing would collapse because there's no actual memory of doing it underneath this answer. Pretenders only have 1 or 2 stories. The moment any experienced interviewer sees you reach for the same story twice, the game is up. Here is why this kills you. I have no idea what you're actually like to work with. I have no idea what you do when something goes wrong. I have no idea if you can think on your feet, because every answer is something you thought about 3 weeks ago. The fix? Balance rehearsing answers with remembering your experiences. A remembered experience is something you can talk about from any angle because you actually lived it. Different question, different angle on the same memory. So pick 5 real experiences from your career. Don't write answers for them. Memorize the experiences so that in an interview, when a question comes up, you already have the experience that fits, and you just have to tell part of it. You will sound like their next great teammate. But the rusher and the performer aren't the worst of the 3. There's one more, and it's the one I saw the most. The one that got candidates who had everything, and they still walked out with nothing. Mistake 3, the Rambler. The Rambler is the most dangerous of the 3 because the Rambler doesn't know they're the Rambler. I had a candidate, incredible resume, shipped titles, DLCs, the works. I asked him the easiest question in the interview, the one designed to let you settle in. Tell me about yourself. He told me about his first video game as a kid, then about discovering games in high school, then about what he studied in college, then about the games he plays now, and then he started getting into his career. 12 minutes. He spent 12 minutes answering a 3-minute question in a 45-minute interview. He lost the interview in the first 12 minutes because by minute 13, I'd already decided. I'd lost the thread of who he actually was. The next 30 minutes weren't an interview anymore. They were me being polite while filling out the rejection in my head. That's what the Rambler does. They don't bore you. They drain you. And a drained hiring manager doesn't fight for you in the debrief room. I am physically tired after talking to you. I have 4 more interviews that day, and I don't have the energy to advocate for someone who took everything out of me in the first round. Even if your resume is incredible, I just don't bring you up. And that's how ramblers get lost in the process. Not in the interview, in the silence after it. So how do you fix this? Every answer needs a clear ending signal, a summary sentence, a question back to the interviewer, even just, and that's how I'd approach it. Something that says, I am done and the floor is yours. No trailing off, no, yeah, so, no apologetic. Does that answer your question? Hand them back the proverbial microphone and let them continue driving the interview. And for the love of God, when someone asks you to tell them about yourself, give them the 3-minute version. Career arc, what you're great at, what you're looking for next. Done. The candidates who got hired were almost always shorter with their answers than they needed to be. The ones who didn't, they left me wanting less. What this actually means. Hiring managers don't write rusher or performer or rambler on the scorecard. They write things that sound like real professional feedback. Strong technically, but have concerns about communication. Not sure how they'd handle a chaotic environment. I didn't quite get a feel for them. If you've ever been rejected with one of these phrases, and I think almost everybody listening has, it meant you didn't calibrate. It meant something was off and the hiring manager couldn't quite name it. So they reached for the closest professional sounding words on the shelf. That is the pattern. Nobody teaches this. Every interview coach in the world is drilling you on star stories and behavioral questions and how to research the company. Because those things are teachable in a worksheet. Energy calibration isn't teachable in a worksheet. So the entire industry trains the visible thing and ignores the invisible thing. And the candidates who did everything right, who studied, who prepared, who had the perfect answers, when they get rejected, they have no idea why. Now you know why. Your skills on your resume get you the interview, but your calibration to the energy in the room, that gets you the offer. Your move. If you've got an interview coming up, do this one thing. Record a mock interview on your phone. 5 questions. Play it back. Ask yourself, am I the rusher, the performer, the rambler? You'll know in the first 2 minutes. And if you want more videos like this, breaking down what actually happens inside hiring decisions at gaming studios, subscribe. There's more coming. I'll see you in the next one.